Well, hey there, my friend, and welcome to the inaugural episode of a podcast that is all about blockchain technology. I am Zach. This is my buddy, Bulent. Now, this is going to be a podcast unlike anything else that you've ever listened to or watched, because if you're interested in blockchain technology, this is going to be the one-stop shop where you're going to know everything there is to know about blockchain technology. But here, in full disclosure, I am not a blockchain expert. That's where you come in, Bulent.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really excited for this podcast and to kind of give people, tell people what blockchain is about and how they can use, and also talk about the story of blockchain and myself.
And so, as I mentioned, I'm not a blockchain expert. It's just a word that I've been hearing for quite some time, and I get very confused when I hear blockchain. But my guess is there's a lot of listeners or viewers that are seeing this right now, and it's just a term that's been thrown around for a few years now, and they realize, okay, if it's being talked about on a regular basis, maybe I should try to get up to speed on what it is.
Yeah.
And so you really got the bug early when blockchain really started being talked about in its early infancy.
Yeah, so actually in 2012, I heard about it, and it sounded to me like this digital currency. At the time, if you remember, Facebook had this internal coins, and you can just use them for Farmsville and other games inside of Facebook. This is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I thought blockchain was Bitcoin was the blockchain back then. And I thought that's what it was for, and it is, but it's more than that. Later, so I didn't pay attention much, but then later in 2017, I learned more about it. I was actually in San Francisco area, working at a big tech company, and that's where you hear it all the time, because in the big tech companies they talk about this all the time. And so I learned about it. I got so excited. I got involved. I've been kind of involved ever since 2017. There's a lot of components to it, but what I realized is that a lot of different people have different perspectives to it. Some people are interested in some perspective, like the mining part. Some people are interested in the investment part. Some people are interested in the development or being able to use it to transfer things quickly. So different people have different use cases, but blockchain covers it all. So it kind of helps with all the aspects of that. But what I realized is that a lot of different people have different aspects, but we can go into each aspect and talk about different perspectives and how it benefits different people, and kind of go deeper into those areas.
Yeah, I think a good place to start is if you could sum up, just as if you're talking to, because I feel like this is going to be something that's common language.
Yeah.
Years, decades from now, for someone who's 7, 8 years old, or even in early high school, right? If you were to sum it up into a very coherent, simple sentence, what is blockchain technology?
Yeah, that's going to be hard, because simplifying it, it's actually simple, very simple. The technology itself is very simple, but to make it work took a long time. But in general, you can think of it as in regular internet consumption, you have payments. The banks, the banks have their own offline part and online part. There's a mobile app, but also you go to the branch and there's money involved, and then there's government involved. So there's you buy a ticket, there's the ticket part has the printing part, and then there's the actual going to the venue, and then you show your QR code part. So in regular web 2, this is called web 2 interface, there's this kind of the offline and online components, or separation almost. And there's people make the products software to make it work between the two. With blockchain, everything is online basically. It's built for the digital world, where your currency lives on the blockchain. USD version of USD, USDT, USDC, and they represent USD as a stable coin. And then you got the ticket, where it's a blockchain contract, where you can use it to, when you go to the venue, you can show it on your blockchain. Someone can check. You don't have to take it. You can just show your wallet, and then so they can validate that you are that person that owns the ticket. So basically, your full identity or full consumption, everything on completely digital world, living on digital world, instead of having this offline and online versions. So it's basically a transfer of value or ownership of any kind of value, completely on digital world without ignoring offline world. Basically, that's what it's meant to be used for. The technology side is a little different. Just like artificial intelligence, you use it for like writing a paper, doing some research. But the underlying technology is like neural networks. It has nothing to do with writing a paper. So the technology works a little differently. To enable it took a long time, and there's technological advancements that need to be done to enable it. But aside from that, being some people describe it as like a distributed ledger. But what does that mean for a normal person? That means that basically your whole transaction, all your identity, everything kind of lives on digital world without going into offline world. Basically, that's what it means.
And the biggest thing that I think I get hung up on is the idea of mining. And you mentioned it just a little earlier, because in my mind, I'm like, you're mining Bitcoin. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, I'm thinking like, with a pick, like I'm going into the digital world and I'm mining some Bitcoin. And I don't, and I can't wrap my head around it. I have a difficult time doing that because it doesn't exist, does it? Like, does Bitcoin exist and you got to go find it, or is it something that is created? That's where I have a difficult time understanding what it is, because is it tangible? Like, can you say it's a tangible thing?
Yeah, that's the problem. Like we just said that everything is in digital world. So when you think about it, like we have actual things like you buy a house, you'll go and stay there. You buy a car, those are tangible things. So when you mine actual gold, you actually touch it, right? It shines and it's shiny. You can see it. Mining is a term to basically it's a term is used to generate new of the assets slowly over time. So they call it mining. It's basic. There are different kinds of mining. It used to be mostly proof of work, which is like you have to run some computation on your computer to prove that you own it. You actually did the work. So the mining, what happens is like these digital assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum, they have limited number of assets, and they just, instead of giving it all at once, they give the underlying assets over time. And the timeline is based on this something called tokenomics. So you define how long it should take, maybe like 50 years, 100 years. And then so the people that are securing the internet, securing the cryptocurrency or blockchain, are incentivized so to make sure that they are doing the computational work or the security work or the trusted work. And then with their trusted work, they are compensated with a little bit of that underlying token. Like for Ethereum, it's Ethereum. For Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin itself. Litecoin itself. So they are incentivized with these. So the idea is that you incentivize the people that are correctly doing the actual work, and that way they secure the entire blockchain itself. And then you make sure that this lasts for a very long time. And for their work, because they're it's not a physical work,
right?
But they call it mining, just from a reference from a real world, basically.
So the one thing that I really want to understand now, as it's at the time of this recording, June of 2024, how integral is blockchain technology and this whole concept of Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these, because again, to a normal person that has difficulty wrapping their head around it, how important is it going to be in our day-to-day lives as we progress into the future?
Yeah, actually, it's very integral to a lot of there's a lot of use cases. It is quite integral, and it's going to be more integral as time passes. The dilemma people are having is like the way the user experience is sometimes clunky, is a little too techy, that makes it harder. But sometimes we actually use it and we don't know we are using it. And so in the future, basically, the future of digital like asset transfers, the world becoming more global every day, being able to purchase some asset from somewhere else in the world, being able to send some money or some kind of transaction to somewhere in the world. It'll be seamless, just like you send it to your, you pay your rent here within the same country. So blockchain removes all those barriers between borders, between governments, basically. So buying an asset and using that asset some way, making some transactions to pay for that asset anywhere in the world, or even Mars if you want to, is basically enabled by blockchain. So the use cases are a lot. Like let's say you want to go to a concert in some country. Normally, like it is like tariffs, taxes, and this and that. A lot of things involved, and then there's a lot of problems. But with blockchain, there's nothing in between. You have some currency in your blockchain, in your wallet. You just purchase the ticket, basically. So that's like one example.
I know. I mean, you remember when that whole that whole Dogecoin thing was a big deal?
Yeah.
And I think that people that didn't really know what they were doing wanted to get in on the action because it was it was talked about then, and it was like, oh, what was it, like Dogecoin to the moon? Remember that? That whole thing? And I remember I had some, and I remember when it skyrocketed, and then I downloaded.
Have you made some money?
Nope. Well, I did, but then I thought, oh, it's going to go even higher. So it's like, I think I maybe bought $200 worth.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
Then it went up past $1,200, $1,300 at one point. And then it tanked down, and I couldn't tell you. But I had like the Coinbase app and all that, but I still didn't understand what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think that was, and as I've, that's been kind of the preface of this episode and in our conversation is that there's a lot of people that are still just trying so hard to write, because we've been paying for things a certain way forever, something tangible, paper money or coins or whatever. And so people wrapping their head around that concept, it's difficult for them. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about things like Bitcoin and the Dogecoin thing. Is that when you talk about the different types of coins, what does that mean?
Yeah, because
are they different currencies? Are they different values of currency?
No, it's different actually. It's not. Well, it's kind of. It is like. It's like currency, but not the currency that you would describe. Like it's not U.S. dollar currency. It's its own. So like, Bitcoin has basically the value of Bitcoin is in the minds of people. The value of Dogecoin is again in the minds of people. But the value of U.S. dollar is different. It's represented by the government, but there's a representation of US dollar in blockchains. So for a lot of people, actually, this makes a lot more sense as an entry. Like, hey, I have actual US dollar representation, US dollar, USDT or USDC, and I'm going to buy something with it. It just makes so much sense to people. Or I'm going to get paid for my, my salary. I get paid in stable coin, USDT, or even euro. And then that makes a lot of sense to people. When you get paid in Dogecoin, and then the price goes sideways. I mean, price goes like up or down. You don't know how to use that. So the value of Dogecoin and other ones and Bitcoin. So each one is basically the currency of the blockchain to make the blockchain continue functioning. So that's the technical terminology. But what does that mean to people? How much is that? So with Bitcoin, because there's a limited number of coins that can ever be produced, that generates scarcity, and that creates value. It's almost like digital gold basically. And so that way that's why people like put a value to it. And so holding that, will accrue some value. But when you do Dogecoin, it's kind of a different universe. I see these blockchains are like different universes. where each blockchain is kind of like isolated universe of its own, running different things. With Ethereum, there's a little bit of difference between like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum and then the new ones and our blockchain too. They create these smart contract idea came out around like 2014, 15, where you can you allow other people to build on top of that. So when we used to have like Nokia phones, like you would come with the apps and you were stuck with those apps. But with the iPhone came and then the smartphone, and just kind of allowed developers to build their own apps. So you're gonna have this like, but iPhone still provides the calling, the internet connection, and like video access and other stuff. But developers are able to access the hardware to build their own applications on top. So Ethereum is like that. Our blockchain is a similar way, like where basically it allows people like Ethereum. There's its coin that can be used for transfers, but it allows developers to build any kind of application on top of that. Like we can talk about some of the applications, but these applications allow developers and other people to kind of utilize that blockchain technology and distributed blockchain technology to kind of serve users for different things. We talk about NFTs, for instance. Like NFTs are, people say, oh, it's just an image. But NFTs, one thing you miss is that it shows ownership. If I have an NFT, that means I own that thing. But if that thing that I own is a ticket or a house, that has a value, because it means that house belongs to me on paper too. So that gives access to be able to purchase that online and quickly. So, but it allows someone like the real estate agent to be able to put houses up to sale with NFTs. So someone has to build that project or application just like an iPhone, so that I can use it. So Bitcoin doesn't allow much of a smart contract applications, but Ethereum allows that. And we're building basically, because Ethereum is a very big ecosystem. That's why actually we're targeting our blockchain Move network to be on top of Ethereum. So we serve the same customers, same users, but with a more secure language, basically.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So Move Network, this is a perfect little segue here.
Mm-hmm.
So Move Network, this is your company.
Yeah.
And how long you guys been around now?
So we've been experimenting with these projects for about 2 years. But we've been really working on this for like 6 to 8 months.
And your sole purpose or your sole mission right now is building out this platform, building out this blockchain technology to give people that freedom to create. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a really good analogy, by the way, when you mentioned like the iPhone. It basically they give you the paint and the canvas.
Yeah.
For you to create. Mm-hmm. So is that a good representation of what you guys are creating for people?
Yeah. So Ethereum has been around for a while. Ethereum had this issue of like a lot of fraud and a lot of basically problems. People lost money basically, and the one of the main reasons is the security. So that when you have a smart contract, when you have an application, it's if it's by itself, running by itself, everything is fine. The worst thing you can do is shut it down, basically. But when you have other applications working with each other, and the interactivity is very wide open. Imagine on iPhone, like apps work. Normally, apps work very isolated, so one app cannot crash the other one. But imagine it was fully open, so I can just try it every way to crash that one. So, and the Solidity smart contract language had this issue when you make transactions between smart contracts, especially like when you transfer something, money from one chain to another chain, and that kind of bridging and that sort of stuff. There was a lot of like issues there, and what we use is basically we're still using the underlying Ethereum security, but we're using a different smart contract language that allows people to build application a lot more secure, so that the users or developers don't have to worry too much about the security of their interactivity of their application with other applications.
Mhm.
They can just kind of focus on their own application and make it secure, and that's it. And there are a few things why this happens. One of the reasons is that the resource management. So like on iPhone, like let's say you try to access the video from another, like a Zoom, let's say you're having a Zoom call, and you're trying to access the video from that and then show it somewhere. iPhone will not allow you to do that. There are resource allocations where that video will be blocked off from your video. There's separate videos, basically, video streams.
Mm-hmm.
With the move language that we use, is the resources of like one user having their assets will be like separated from another user's assets. Let's say the smart contract has some issues. The user's assets don't change because of the smart contract. The users will not be infected by that. But in Solidity, there's a concept called global storage. And then because every data is like in one place, if that gets that contract gets into some problems, then someone can tamper that data and access to your account, even if you don't want to be accessed. You don't want your data to be accessed. They can change that through the contract. But move language kind of separates that concern of like the account resources and then smart contract resources. That way, like the user, someone tampering can only tamper with smart contracts data, not your data. So once the smart contract is fixed, you can continue using it as it is. So it allows that kind of like benefit on top of the Ethereum security.
So as you are moving on with Moved Network, is it Moved Network is the name of the company?
Yeah.
And as you're building that out, what personal struggles have you had getting this thing off the ground and getting people all on the same page?
Yeah. So we started with like looking from customers. Actually, we interviewed customers first, and we wanted to understand. So I was involved in the Move ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Move is a smart contract language, and it came from. Was built at Facebook about 4.5 years ago. And so the idea was to build a better smart contract language, a lot safer smart contract language. And Facebook, that department kind of dissolved. So this became kind of open source, and so now everybody can use it. But it's a great technology. It's a great language, great technology. And so we were building some products in the Move ecosystem, and we asked people like, hey, what are some of the issues that you're having? And a lot of developers mentioned that they can build these products, great develop applications, but they wanted to build for the Ethereum users, because there's like 10 years of like growth on Ethereum. There's a lot of user base, a lot of established products already. So instead of like working isolated, they wanted to be able to access the existing applications, existing users, and all that. And at first it didn't make sense how this can work. And we iterated a few times, and then kind of finally settled on the new technology we're building. And we think it's the right technology. The security of it is based on Ethereum. So like we're not securing the network. We're basically just running it. The data or the requests from users, hey, I want to use this thing for that application, that goes to Ethereum. Ethereum takes care of the security of it, like make sure that it's received and make sure that it's executed and it's done. We take the execution and then run it. So we run it as something called layer 2, like Ethereum considering this like layer 1, the base layer. But Ethereum it can't handle all the transactions too much. So what happens is we take that transaction off, we run it, and we tell Ethereum, hey, we're done, here's the result. So that's how we update it. So in an optimistic way. And on top of that, we use Move language, which is a lot more secure for the developers. So when they build something, they're kind of assured that everything's going to work fine. And we haven't seen any like issues in any Move language blockchains yet. Knocking on wood. And so we want to use that and provide that safety and security, but be still on Ethereum. We found the right technology and to build it. So basically we're off to the races. We're just looking to build it and soon, so we can kind of provide that value to people.
So let's talk a little bit about where the listeners and the viewers will come in. I mean, obviously, using this as a resource to be educated on blockchain technology and what Move Network is doing. Where are things at for you right now within the company to take this thing to where you ultimately want to get to?
Yeah. So there are a few directions and aspects of it. We really want to make this a non-isolated project that is very useful for Ethereum users, and so much so that actually we are using Ethereum address space. So like when you have an Ethereum wallet, you can still continue using the same wallet natively without changing any wrappers or any like add-ons or anything like that. You can just continue using the same address space so that your assets will be represented on Move Network too. And we want to make it super easy for people to use. And I think, so when I use blockchains, the biggest thing that motivates me to use it is how easy it is. And like the speed, like how, when I send something, once I send some assets or some coins to someone, I want to make sure that they're able to receive. There's this anxiety that builds up when it doesn't go through. We think that the Move language is very good for that, because if something is not working or something is wrong, it fails very early, saying like, hey, this did not work. If it works, then it just kind of finishes very quick. So make it super easy for people to onboard and use, so they don't need to like learn a new users. I'm not talking about the developers. Users will not need to learn a new tool and download another software. They can continue using their existing wallets and start using Move Network. Basically, that's our target. And from the development side, we're actually we're using optimistic rollup right now. The withdrawal times are longer. Idea is that basically when something goes wrong, you want to give enough time for people in general to claim that there was some fraud or something wrong. And that's usually about like 7 days. So let's say you send your assets, send your like USD coins to Move Network, and then you want to take it back. Well, you have to wait for 7 days to get it, and that's not right. That's not good. So what we want to do is technologically.
I could see where that anxiety would come from.
Yeah, and I'm like, are you like holding like hostage of my money? It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So ideally, but that's with technology. That's not a user experience solution. That's a technology solution. And there's a technology called zero knowledge proofs. Instead of using regular like fraud proofs, we can use zero knowledge proofs. And these proofs like enable basically saying like, hey, this transaction is correct. You can move forward basically. So we want to enable that. We call it like ZK move, zero knowledge move based, zero knowledge proof. So we're thinking about different aspects of enabling this. Like it's a computationally expensive, so we don't want to do it for every transaction. But for a transaction maybe requiring withdrawals or other things, we can do it for that only with a little additional fees and things like that. But we're going to enable that so that the user experience can be a lot easier and better. So our focuses are basically lower the anxiety. That's very important. And then make it very safe development environment basic for developers. And third one that's probably the number one for us, is no isolation. We don't want to isolate our blockchain from existing infrastructure and existing user base. So it's
definitely collaborate, not compete sort of deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's probably. I mean, and that's a life lesson that I've learned over the last few years.
Yeah.
Collaboration is key, aside from just trying to do your own thing. But we're barely scratching the surface. I'm sure I've learned a lot just in this very short conversation, and I'm sure to some people it's like kind of like drinking from a fire hose right now, because there's so much to unpack when it comes to blockchain technology and what you're doing with Move Network. So what's the easiest way in between episodes of what we're doing here? People can stay in touch with you. They can continue to gain insight, utilize you as a resource, and help you build what ultimately Move Network is going to become.
Yeah, definitely. We're really growing. We're at the very early stages of this growth. We really believe in our what we provide, and we're growing our team, we're growing our user base and interest. So we're going to talk more probably in our other episodes about the details of our blockchain and how much progress we've made and the progress we made specifically. But in general, like the best way to follow us is on Twitter at Moved Network. It's the best way to follow us. We're looking to hire Rust engineers to build our infrastructure, and looking for more investment to kind of grow this product. And also on Telegram, we're again at Moved Network group. So you can join our group on Telegram or follow us on Twitter, so to get up-to-date information about our progress.
Okay, and the best way for you to go ahead and get access to all that down in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube, it's down below the video, on podcasts, again, down in the show notes. We'll have all that linked for you.
Yeah.
And again, we are barely scratching the surface here, so make sure that you tune in week after week with Bulent and myself. I'm learning just as I'm sure many of you are as we're going along on this journey, but we've got a guy that's going to help lead us there to understanding what this is all about.
Yeah.
Bulent, here's to many more.
Yes.
Looking forward to the conversations.
Thanks for having me.
And hope to see you next week. Take care.